What's going on, everyone? Talen here, and welcome to another Marvel Future Fight video. Alright, so in this one here, we're going to be taking a look at Rogue's new uniform, her Uncanny Avengers uniform, and this is still, yes, in the test build, so this is still pre-update, so it's still subject to change, so there might be some variations from what you see here to what you see in the live version. Just want to put that out there so you know, and also this video is brought to you by Netmarble and the Star Agents program. So now that that is out of the way, let's go ahead and take a look at the uniform here. So here's her Uncanny Avengers uniform, and it looks really good. I like this look for Rogue. It's definitely a lot better than this one here with, what is that, like the 80s hairstyle right there or something, where they got the big hair or something like that. But anyway, here's Rogue, and so let's go ahead and take a look here. Her uniform bonus is going to enhance the effects of energy utilization, and that is going to be her tier 2 passive. It doesn't show you in the actual skill list here. But if you back out and go over to her skills, go ahead and click on our passive here, you can see that the only change is actually the increase to all buff effects. Everything else is the same. So she always had the 17% reduce all damage, and then she also had the 23% guaranteed dodge. The only change is the all buff effects by 20%. Here, because that is a 10% increase, whereas without the uniform and her base kit, she is a 10% increase to all buff effects. The duration didn't change. I believe the duration was always 30%. I could double check that real fast though, just to make sure, but I think it was 30% still. Yeah, so still 30%. So she only gets an extra 10% to the buff effects, which is still nice. So let's go ahead back over to the uniform here and continue looking at that. So we have 5 skill changes. The first skill right here is going to add a bleed damage. The second skill right here is getting the HP recovery now, whereas previously her third skill was the one that had the HP recovery, so it's just kind of moved around a little bit. And now it also has a 40% increase to physical attack, whereas previously it was a 30%, so just an extra 10% right there. The third skill, like I said, is getting its HP recovery moved over to the second skill. Besides that, we have all defense down here, which doesn't apply to world bosses. The fourth skill right here now deals chill damage, which we'll see why in a minute here when we jump into the skill preview. Besides that, it's got a freeze as well, which doesn't apply to world bosses, so it's not like a paralyze or anything like that. And then we have the fifth skill, which has a bit of a change going on here. So we have all defense down again, but this time this does apply to World Boss Ultimate, which is really nice, and it stacks up to minus 55%, so that's really going to help out our damage. And then the all attack, all defense, and all speed boost right there is a little bit more than what it used to be. It used to be only 15%, or no, it used to be 10% all attack, 15% all defense, and 15 all speed. So the all speed is staying the same, but we're getting an extra 25% all attack and an extra 20% all defense. So nice boost right there. And then the damage immunity is the same. She now has super armor, which she didn't have that before, which is really nice. And then an 85% increase to all defense. So after you pop this, she's going to be pretty tanky because she's going to have a ton of defense. She has a 35% up there and then an 85% right there, and she reflects physical damage back. So this skill is really nice. And keep in mind that her tier 2 passive, of course, is going to affect this. So all of these numbers right here are going to get amplified by 20% in terms of the value, and then the duration is going to get amplified by 30%. So even without that can't speak right now. Even without that amplification, you will be able to keep these buffs up the entire fight because the skill is on a 16-second cooldown. So that's going to jump itself down to an 8-second cooldown. And we have these active for 10 seconds. But with her increase for 30%, it's going to be like 13 seconds or something like that. So pretty nice. Let's hop into the skill preview and see what these new skills look like. All right, so the first skill, I don't think that one has really changed. Oh yeah, that one has Wolverine on it. So yeah, I think all of them have changed actually for the animation, except for maybe the second skill. So now we have Wolverine that kind of hops in a little bit here. So that's where she's getting that bleed damage from. So that's why all of her skills have separate little effects. So when someone gets called in with her, she kind of gets their effect added to the skill, which is really nice. So for Wolverine, it's bleed. For the second skill right here, this is just her normal effect where she kind of absorbs the energy from the enemies, and that's kind of going to be presented in the form of HP, so she's stealing their health kind of thing. And now the third skill right here jumps up and these kind of fists rain down, and I don't think Yeah, I don't think there's any cameos in this one. But it is an iframe like partway through, so you can use this to kind of protect her a little bit, which is nice, and it's got a lot of hits on it, so a lot better so far than her previous uniform, because her old uniform, man, that thing had like no hits. It was basically kind of like this, like 2 or 3 hits for every skill. So I'm liking that there's more hits on her skills now. Now the 4th skill, boom, as you can see here, who's that hops in? That's Bobby. Yeah, we have Iceman that's hopping in to help out for this skill, so that's where we get that kind of chill damage from and that freeze effect going on. So really cool, and it is an ice iframe as well, so she retains that iframe, which is very good. And then finally the 5th skill right here, boom, pops up iframe. She gets her damage immunity, then she goes out of the iframe. But we have Colossus hop in, and that's where we get that all defense down, because as we know, Colossus does have all defense down on 2 or 3 of his skills, and it does apply to World Boss Ultimate, so that's kind of why they probably kept that in there for that applying to World Boss Ultimate. And then if we look really closely after the skill's finished right here, you can see that Rogue is, yes, ironclad. She's got metal kind of feet right there and metal hands that you can see. So she did steal Colossus's organic steel, the organic metal, whatever the correct name is for it. But anyway, she steals that, so that's how she gets that super armor, and that's why she gets that massive increase in all defense, and that's why she reflects physical damage. So really cool. I'm liking her skill animation changes, but do they actually hit very hard is the question. So we're going to hop over to World Boss Ultimate to kind of show that off, and I did try her out with a few different options. So if we back out here right now, I am going to be rocking the, oh, gotta do this again where it keeps kicking me out. Back over to Rogue. Right now we're just rocking a regular obelisk. I found a 200% obelisk on the kind of test account right here. I was scrolling through them, and that's why it's kind of really bad except for that 200% proc, because I wanted to keep the comparison even, because I tried her out with this obelisk right here. I tried her out with a CTP of energy that has a 200% proc, and then I tried her out with a CTP of rage to kind of see what the difference is between the 3 and what might be good for Rogue here, because she ended up doing a lot more damage than I thought. So that's kind of why I started changing around the obelisk to CTPs and stuff like that to see how much damage I could get out of her. So with that being said, let's go ahead and hop over to World Boss Ultimate so I can show you what I'm talking about. Alright, so here we are at Proxima, stage 36. We're going to go ahead and use this team here. We have Beast for that physical damage. We have 50% increase to physical attack, and then we've got some extra crit damage there by 10%. Then we have Shuri for her tier 2 passive and a little bit of extra survivability. And we're going to go in without any strikers, of course, because we want to see Rogue's damage on its own, and also her survivability without any of the mind control to help her out. Let's get going here. We're not going to use Beast buff and stuff like that. We're just going to switch over right away and get right into Rogue. So here we go. Let's go ahead and pop the 5th skill, try to get that damage proc there. Then we're going to get the buff from the 2nd skill, go into the iframe, and then go into another iframe. And then, oh, well, it's supposed to trigger the proc right there, but let's see if we can't reset here a little bit. So she's very, very safe to play between her iframes and just her massive amount of defense. So she's really easy to play. She's got the heal as well, so very, very fun with this uniform. If we get the damage proc, there we go, to actually go off, you can see that she hits really hard as well. So when that damage proc goes off, she dishes out some really, really nice damage. See right there, that was a really good example of her damage. So her damage has gone up significantly, and it probably just has to do with the amount of hits being increased as well, because before her skills just didn't have very many hits. It had like 4 or 5 hits on like her skills, so it was pretty bad. You can proc on both the 5th or the 4th skill. Both of them have really good damage, but do keep in mind that the 5th skill is the one that has the all defense down. So let's go ahead and try that one more time, because that was a lot slower than what I'm used to seeing from her, because I have tried her out quite a few times before starting up the recording here, just to kind of get a nice baseline for what I should expect from her. And it looks like with the obelisk here, I'm usually getting her to go into the kind of cutscene where she starts throwing the spears at you at about 45 seconds in, something like that. So let's see if we can't get a little bit of a better example here. So go here, Then we want to hop into this guy. A little bit off on it. Luckily, none of her skills are over the 7 seconds for the damage proc, so you can time her skill rotation very, very easily with the obelisk. Just gotta, there we go, get that to go off. This is a lot better showing by Rogue, and you can see she's very safe to play, so that's also awesome. And she can take a hit. That's what I really like, a speed type that can take a hit and not get like one-shotted super easily. So yeah, as you can see there, it's generally around the 45-second mark. She was just a little late in going into the animation right there, because usually it's kind of towards the top of the 11th health bar right here that she goes into this animation, so it varies a little bit, but around 45 seconds is what I've been expecting to see with a regular obelisk here. So now let's go ahead and switch over to the CTP of energy and see the difference in the time there. Alright, so now she's geared up with the CTP of energy, and the CTP of energy is a 200% proc. The other thing that might throw this off a little bit, of course, is the CTP of energy giving her, I think this one has 41% critical damage on it, and that obelisk that I showed you did not have any critical damage on it, so that can increase the, of course, the potency of her attacks right there, having the extra 40%, which is really, really significant, actually. Oh, we didn't get our damage proc there. Let's see if we could proc on the 4th skill instead. There we go. So as you can see, she has enough hits that the CTP of energy can actually be a good option for her. You want to use, of course, that 5th skill to get that super armor for sure and the all defense down. So even if you miss your damage proc, you still want to try to get that in there. As you can see, that's a lot of damage because this is a stage 36 with no strikers. This test account is better than my account in terms of like the cards and stuff, so okay, well there we go. That's generally what I expect to see. Actually, it usually takes about 35 seconds to get down to this next phase here. So about 35 seconds is where you expect to see, so about 10 seconds quicker than with a regular obelisk. But again, there is this extra crit damage here, so you can kind of keep that in the back of your mind. So they're very similar, I think, in my opinion, that 10 seconds can be equated to that 40% critical damage increase that we're getting from the CTP of energy. So I don't know if there really is enough hits, actually, now that I think about it, to take advantage of the CTP of energy. So as of right now, looks like a regular obelisk is the way to go with Rogue, that you're not going to get a super noticeable increase with a CTP of energy, provided that you still have like the critical damage to match. Like if your Uru or your cards or whatever is giving you enough critical damage to get you close to the cap or whatever, that may be the only reason. Or if you have an obelisk with critical damage on it, then that of course will make up the difference right there. But let's go ahead and throw a CTP of rage on her just for fun, just to see if she'll do any better than the obelisk or the CTP of energy. Alright, so now she's got the CTP of rage on her, so let's see what she can do this time around. Alright, so we're going to stick to pretty much the same kind of skill rotation, just because that one keeps her pretty safe in terms of always having an iframe up or her damage immunity. So I don't really want to mess around with that too much here. But as you can see, the damage is definitely more consistent in not having like random bursts here and there, but it's not significantly higher than the CTP of energy. Actually, this one was a little bit quicker than what I did with my other testing with the CTP of rage. That's kind of funny. Maybe I wasn't sticking to this skill rotation as closely this time, or when I was doing my testing, than I did this time around, because in my testing I was getting about 30 seconds for the CTP of rage, but right here that was 25 seconds, so that was significantly better actually. So I might have actually not been using this skill rotation when I was doing the testing with the CTP of rage, because that was the first one I tested with her. I had the CTP of rage on her first, and then I switched to CTP of energy, and then I switched to a obelisk to kind of see the difference between them. So it looks like the CTP of rage is doing better than I thought it was going to do, because initially my initial thoughts from my testing was that they weren't too significantly different from each other, that a CTP of energy and a CTP of rage were within 5 seconds, and then the regular obelisk was within 5 to 10 seconds of a CTP of energy. So overall, the jump from like a CTP of rage and an obelisk is going to be significant, but if you're just doing them In terms of like a CTP of energy or a regular obelisk, I would say it's not significant. And then the same thing can be said about a CTP of energy and a CTP of rage. I would say they're not super significant. So for Rogue here, I still think a regular obelisk will do just fine with her, an obelisk with a damage proc. If you really want to juice her out, a CTP of Rage does look like a viable option on her. It is going to hit really hard, and it'd probably translate better into higher stages than 36 right here. When the boss starts having more defenses and stuff like that, you'll probably notice the Rage being a lot better in terms of maybe a regular obelisk or a CTP of energy. But overall, I'm really liking the changes to Rogue here. This uniform is amazing. She is hitting really hard. I know I mentioned earlier that this test account has really good cards on it, so it's a lot better than my live account in terms of like the all attack, physical attack, and energy attack that I'm getting from the cards. So that's definitely going to play a factor in it. But I have been testing, you know, some of the other new characters so far, and some of the other new uniforms. And Rogue here has been hitting a lot harder than a lot of the other characters. Like just recently, I did my Swordmaster one, and his damage was nowhere near the damage I'm seeing with Rogue right here. His hits were like a 20% of her damage basically. So Rogue is really putting in work right here. And yeah, I'm really happy to see that, because I definitely want an excuse to build Rogue up, because I do really like Rogue. So once I get my hands on this uniform, I'm going to try to get her to level 7. Oh yeah, and she's only level 60 right here, whereas Swordmaster and the other characters I've looked at so far with their uniforms have been level 70. So that's also kind of a disadvantage that Rogue's having, and she's still hitting a lot harder than some of them. So yeah, I'm really happy with this uniform so far. I hope they don't really change too much with it, because I'm liking this this damage here that I'm seeing. Her survivability is great. I love the little cameos with Colossus, Iceman, and Wolverine. Yeah, so let me know what you think based on what you're seeing here, if this uniform looks really good for Rogue, if you're excited for it. And that's going to be it for this video here. I hope you guys enjoyed, and of course I will catch you in the next one.